On the crisp spring morning of April 26, 1999, Jill Dando, a beloved BBC television presenter known for her grace, sincerity, and earnest charm, stepped out onto the pathway leading to her terrace house on Gowan Avenue in London. Blouse gently tucked into navy trousers, a simple, elegant outfit she favored on air and off. Her hair was styled in a clean, cropped bob, her expression calm, and she carried a small handbag as she prepared to greet the postal worker due to arrive in minutes. Jill had just filmed a segment for the BBC's holiday program the night before and was scheduled to host Crime Watch later that week. To her neighbors, she appeared the picture of normalcy, warmth, and professionalism, completely unprepared for what awaited. At approximately 11:30 a.m., a single gunshot rang out in the quiet West London suburb. Neighbors later described hearing a sudden noise, but none expected what followed. Jill collapsed at the top of the stoop, her blouse stained with blood, the navy fabric of her trousers mottled at her side. Blood pooled on the patterned porch, tiles beneath. Delivery drivers, postal workers, and neighbors rushed out, some to help, others to call emergency services. Despite prompt attempts at resuscitation, Jill was pronounced dead shortly thereafter at the scene. She was just 37 years old. When the police arrived, her blouse and trousers remained exactly as she had worn them that morning, neatly pressed. Appropriate for the cool day, unremarkable in every way except that they bore the stains of a brutal crime. That consistent outfit, light blouse and navy bottoms, would become part of her final image in public memory. Forensic experts photographed everything in situ. Her shoes placed slightly askew, her right blouse sleeve edged with blood, her manicure intact as though she had lifted her hand to pause in thought or greeting. There were no signs of robbery or forced entry. Neighbors reported she had been alone, carrying mail, smiling moments before. No weapon was recovered at the scene, and no video surveillance captured her final steps, at least none ever released. As investigators combed the pavement and captured minimal forensic evidence. The blouse and trousers Jill wore became symbolic of the day worn in comfort, in confidence, turned tragic. Autopsy reports showed a single projectile had penetrated her abdomen, severing vital organs, but left no exit wound. She had bled out almost immediately. The pathologist noted that, based on the angle, the shot likely came from someone standing below the steps, someone she may have known or trusted enough not to fear. Station of the blouse and trousers gave investigators no clear profile but her calm stride. Her public status and the lack of witnesses pushed them toward professional hypotheses. Was it a deeply personal motive or the act of a deranged stalker? From the outset, media coverage surged. Headlines portrayed Jill as the girl-next-door journalist, beloved by millions, killed while on her way to greet a friend or colleague. Broadcasters ran videos of her wearing that same light blouse and navy trousers on Crime Watch, laughing. In interviews, answering inquiries, completely unaware it would be her final attire in public memory. A montage emerged. Jill in that outfit stepping into a van to report from Bosnia, Jill interviewing Peter Ustinov, Jill presenting under studio lights all the while wearing similar simple attire that underlined her understated professionalism. Detectives canvassed the street methodically. They interviewed neighbors, postal workers, and colleagues who had seen Jill leave her house near Paddington. Although many remembered her laugh or the soft rustle of her blouse in the breeze, none saw anything unusual that Dano car idling. No unfamiliar face, no argument or confrontation. Her blouse appeared undisturbed, aside from traces of blood, and there were no scuff marks on her trousers. It was as if she had simply paused to collect a letter and disappeared in an instant. As forensic teams searched for trace elements, gun residue, fibers, unknown DNA, they documented the blouse and trousers carefully. Photographs labeled victims' clothing. Samples taken from stained areas, laser scans of the porch surface near her trousers. Investigators theorized that the weapon might have been small and silenced, given the lack of noise except for one loud bang recorded by a few startled residents. Yet, given the formal outfit, Jill wore a blouse lightly tucked in, shirt collar turned down. Navy trousers not too loose or tight-fit was also suggested that whoever targeted her might have known her routine. wardrobe enough to predict her attire that day, or that she dressed as she always did, unaware the outfit would become her crime scene garb. In the hours after the shooting, news outlets ran photographs of Jill standing before BBC backgrounds in that same blouse and trouser style, juxtaposed. With images from the street where fabric hung stained and lifeless on concrete, the public reacted with shock, grief, and anger. How could someone shoot a friendly presenter? In broad daylight, as she simply walked to fetch the post in her everyday clothes. The contrast between her public persona, her blouse modest, her trousers professional, and her private final act outside her front door rocked Britain. By evening, detectives announced that they had located and taken possession of Jill's outfit, exact blouse and navy trousers she wore that morning, and placed them into evidence storage. They filmed the items being folded and sealed, noting the location and pattern of the bloodstains, noting the tears in the fabric near the waistband, and the alignment of buttons. They did not publicly describe the color of the blouse beyond light-colored, to preserve the dignity of her memory, but insiders say it matched the tone of her on-screen clothing, soft, approachable, unassuming, while forensic tests generated leads from possible DNA on the blouse. Following the tragic murder of Jill Dando, investigators from Scotland Yard descended on Gowan Avenue with a sense of urgency mixed with uncertainty. On that same spring morning, she had stepped out in her light blouse and navy trousers. Her attire now became the defining image of the moments before she died. Detectives recorded in their logs that the blouse had a bleach glow sheen and that her trousers matched official descriptions: navy, tapered at the waist, worn with mid-heeled, sensible shoes. They referred to these as Dove clothing, helpful for reconstructing the timeline. In the hours after, forensic teams collected evidence around her body. A single bullet casing recovered from slightly beneath her trousers pocket crease. Faint residue from the waistband. Fabric collected from the porch surface for gunpowder analysis. They hoped these traces, combined with elastic tightness measurements of her blouse sleeves, could reveal her posture at the moment of impact and, perhaps, shape of the shooter in proximity. Detective Chief Inspector Peter Lawless was assigned to lead the murder investigation. He ordered a full forensic sweep: elevators, CCTV cameras, postal routes, and interview logs from the prior evening when Jill was on location filming for the holiday program. Witnesses were called in to describe what she had been wearing and what she looked like when last seen alive. Uniform statements poured in. She had on a light blouse, long sleeves rolled up a bit because it was warm, and dark navy trousers. The consistency of her clothing across multiple accounts confirmed the earlier hypothesis. She followed her usual routine, dressed as she always did, unaware it would intersect with a violent act. Yet the mystery deepened when the bullet residue testing came back inconclusive. The residue found on her blouse cuff was minimal, a few specks, suggesting the shooter might have held the gun at an angle slightly below, targeting her midsection near the trouser's waistband. This aligned with the trajectory analysis conducted at the Stoops tile pattern. Forensic analysts projected the bullet path through her navy trousers down into the wooden step beneath. They reconstructed the angle, concluding the shooter likely stood knee-height lower than Jill's waist, a profile consistent with someone shorter or crouching. Despite this detail, they still had no suspect names, no motive, and no CCTV footage of anyone exiting or entering the street around that time. It was as if a stranger appeared for seconds and vanished. Meanwhile, media interest escalated. ITV, BBC, and newspapers published security camera stills from nearby commercial areas, images taken hours before the shooting. In each frame, Jill appeared in her distinctive blouse and trousers, smiling at passers-by. But no image showed any suspicious person near her house at 11:30 a.m. The narrative of a public murder was tempered by the lack of public surveillance. England's capital continued its daily flow, unaware of the enigma being investigated, block by block. At the Yard's press conference the next day, Jill's clothing was described carefully. We can confirm she was wearing a light long sleeve blouse, tailored style, collar open, and navy trousers, fitted and practical. She had a shoulder bag strapped across her body. But the most chilling detail conveyed by her colleagues was how typical that outfit was. What she wore to work, to lunch, to walk between studios. A classic example of professional dress turned jarring in hindsight. Her associates and neighbors submitted personal photos from the day before showing that same blouse-trousers combination. Jill, interviewing a presenter outside, shaking hands with locals in Bosnia, all while dressed in that same quiet uniform. Detectives launched a neighborhood-wide canvass. Door-to-door inquiries revealed an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Stafford, who remembered noticing Jill in that blouse and trousers boundary walking with postal staff. Just 10 minutes before the shooting, she recalled Jill chatting, smiling, pointing at something inside her house. Mrs. Stafford said she saw no one else. Others reported seeing a mail carrier pause at the porch just moments before the bullet, but no facial details of any other figure. The contrast of the blouse's softness and the trousers' calm neutrality against the violence that followed made the crime scene surreal. Soon, a major lead emerged. A man described as quiet, middle-aged, carrying post had been seen walking away toward a nearby side lane at around 11:25 a.m. He was wearing plain clothing and had a compact package in hand. Detectives traced that to a former postal worker, but after forensic interviews they ruled him out. Still, the fact that Jill's blouse and trousers appeared pressed and undisturbed before and after the event suggested she had not staggered. She had probably paused and turned or leaned forward when shot. Witness statements about her posture became critical, referencing the blouse collar angle and the way her blouse hung with no signs of struggling. Over the next few days, speculation swirled. Could someone she knew have shot her? Security issues arose surrounding harboring packages addressed to her house. Was the attack premeditated or random? The light blouse and navy trousers Jill wore became a central point of reconstruction and televised reenactments critics and investigators created. CGI simulations showing a woman in that exact outfit, holding mail, turning to lock her door, and a blur of movement ending in a gunshot. These simulations emphasized how unsuspecting she was in full daylight, dressed in her usual attire, despite exhaustive evidence. Not long after the initial investigation began, the tragic murder of Jill Dando, discovered on her doorstep wearing that light blouse and navy trousers, triggered an extraordinary public reaction across Britain and beyond. Newspapers and tabloids repeatedly published the same photograph of Jill in that outfit, a snapshot taken just days before her death during an on-location shoot. Her blouse looked crisp, her trousers smartly tailored, and she seemed unaware she would never wear them again. Social media didn't exist in 1999, but the era's internet forums and early email chains buzzed with speculation, empathy, and outrage. She was portrayed in headlines as smiling Jill or the friendly face of TV, always referenced, wearing the same blouse and trousers she'd left home wearing. Meanwhile, forensic experts returned to the evidence bag containing those clothes. Specialized analysts used ultraviolet light to identify invisible marks on both blouse sleeves and trouser, seam-stiny fibers that hinted at possible contact with another person. They examined the buttonholes and waistband alignments for traces of fabric pulled or snagged. They discovered a single, minuscule speck of what appeared to be gunpowder residue on the inner lining of the blouse, barely visible to the naked eye. But under microscope it glowed faintly. The navy trousers matched expectations for a seated posture with creases at the knees pointing to Jill, either pausing or turning when the shot struck. Forensic panels wondered aloud if the killer had crouched or leaned forward, shooting from a lower angle. Every stitch, seam, and stain on that outfit became an unsolved code to crack. Suspicions began to swirl around former associates, stalkers, and ex-colleagues. Police interviewed dozens of people who remembered seeing Jill in her characteristic blouse-trouser combination during the weeks prior. "Gosh," one film crew member recalled. "Jill in exactly that outfit, laughing on set and complaining about wearing formal clothes in hot weather," a small detail that had verified the Dav styling. The consistency undermined any claims she had changed clothing or been escorted in the moments before. It suggested that from wardrobe to porch to evidence bag, she had remained in the same ensemble. Media investigative programs aired reenactments featuring a woman wearing identical clothes walking up the path. Observers commented that she looked every inch the same Jill Dando viewers saw on TV's soft blouse collar. Modest rolled sleeves, navy trousers sagging just right at the waist. Yet each reenactment rose more questions than answers. If she had just bent to pick up mail, as some witnesses said, the trousers' waistband indent line and blouse cuff alignment should match physical reconstructive models, but none did, meaning analysts believe she had paused, leaned forward, turned, and then collapsed. Activist pressure groups formed calling for transparent release of all original CCTV footage from nearby side streets, possibly revealing the elusive shooter. The police publicly responded that no cameras had been operational in the critical alley at the time. Critics pointed out that an obscure link on a surveillance map had a note saying, "Unknown coverage near Jill's house." Photographic experts hypothesized that if the shooter had known Jill, they could have waited in a blind spot observing her blouse and trousers pattern before striking. The theory of familiarity gained traction. Someone recognized her clothing. Habit accepted it as comforting routine and timed their act accordingly. Simultaneously, forensic psychologists weighed in. They suggested the killer might have planned around her route and attire, assuming she would appear wearing that blouse and trousers at exactly 11:30 a.m. on a Monday. That clothing consistency created predictability, a fact easily manipulated by someone with knowledge of her daily schedule. Interviews with neighbors revealed Jill had followed that outfit schedule often, reporting early in the day, filming, midday, attending a cafe afternoon, and repeat. That mundane but predictable clothing choice, once a brand of reliability, now looked like a vulnerability. Meanwhile, coverage turned to errors and misleads. It emerged that the postman had seen a delivery van pull into the lane at approximately 11:28 a.m. No photographs of the van. No number plate recorded. Investigators later searched local signage and maps, concluding the vehicle had likely been racing away as Jill collapsed. The timeline suggested the gunman might have been waiting nearby and observed her in the blouse-trouser outfit stepping onto the porch. If so, they struck fast enough that the neighbors assumed they saw Miriam, the dog walker, or someone they recognized. Yet no one formally identified the van or matched clothing. Further controversy erupted when a cryptic letter arrived at a newspaper office, allegedly from someone claiming to be the killer and referencing the blouse and trousers. "Nice blouse, Jill. Shame about the trousers." Police traced the typewriter to a public library, but the match was never definitive. The letter deepened conspiracy chatter. Was it a hoax? A confession? A random taunt? The mention of her clothes, neutral but chilling, reinforced how central that outfit had become to the lore of her death. Years passed without a conviction in Jill Dando's murder, even as her image in that light blouse and navy trousers remained etched into Britain's collective memory. Though the case officially closed as unsolved, periodic reinvestigations opened cracks in the original narrative. New forensic reanalysis occurred. Specialists revisited the blouse shoulder seam where residue had once been detected, testing whether gunpowder trace might yield a genetic match with modern DNA tools. The trousers were re-examined at G's new lab using advanced fiber transfer tracking, looking for strands that could tie an accomplice. Yet the resampling revealed only degraded signals, not enough for prosecution, but enough to confirm earlier suspicions. Those clothes had quietly held invisible clues for decades. Meanwhile, whistleblowers came forward, alleging the original timeline had gaps. One claimed police had rushed a witness statement about a stranger near Gowan Avenue in 1999, event though that witness later retracted, insisting they had been mistaken about clothing. That stranger had been described wearing a brown jacket and casual trousers, nothing like Jill's blouse on trousers uniform, but the retraction was ignored, and the initial claim used to shape the early timeline, skewing the investigation framework. Critics argued the obsession over Jill's blouse and trousers eclipsed deeper scrutiny. No suspect, no weapon found, none of the doorbell logs checked, and neighboring cameras never retrieved. A retired detective later testified that the blouse sleeves and trousers' waist crease details had been misinterpreted in several animation reconstructions shown to the public. Each used CGI models wearing identical outfits, sometimes confronting, worn patterns that didn't match the real folds found at the scene. The models leaned forward too sharply, their trousers creased, too deeply suggesting overreach and reconstructive storytelling. Forensic consultants warned that viewers might internalize these visual reenactments as fact. The court of public opinion had been shown Jill bending to collect mail in her blouse and trousers, but witness testimony suggested she might have fired up the hedge trimmer earlier that morning, smoothing the bushes outside her gate. If so, different posture and trouser creasing would occur. That detail was dropped from iterations because it contradicted the more dramatic scene previously aired. By now, documentaries and podcasts featured her blouse and trousers ensemble, repeatedly some captioning it as possible blood angle indicator, others merely as odd focus on attire. But public trust in the visual narrative slowly eroded. Meanwhile, new theories swirled: domestic dispute, political message, revenge killing. Jill was a well-trusted public face in television. Some pundits invoked her blouse and trousers symbolism to suggest that someone wanted to destroy not just her life, but her image. One book titled Press Under Fire questioned whether Jill's clothing had become as much a victim as she was, a symbol hijacked for media gain. Tabloid columns rehashed every sighting of Jill in that outfit before Easter 1999. Meeting friends in cafes, running errands, filming in Bosnia. CCTV archives publicly available showed her stepping into the street in the blouse and trousers just days before. Nothing out of routine, but haunting in hindsight. At an internal review, BBC staff disclosed emails complaining that on the day her murder aired on the news, presenters wore versions of the same blouse and trousers ensemble and tributes, argued it was tasteless mimicry. Others saw it as respectful homage. In the legal world, civil cases emerged. Members of the public sued government bodies for withholding surveillance footage and forensic notes. Many cited the blouse and trousers detail as evidence they were shown misleading reconstructions that did not reflect the true folds or color tones, alleging law-breaking and misrepresentation. While courts rejected most claims, the scrutiny elevated Jill's clothes as central to the controversy. Not just her tragic death. By the mid-2000s, cold case notifications broadened. Police launched a reopened inquiry under Operation Oxborough, focusing again on discarded Leeds postmen, local post office staff, security cameras. A former staffer named Crispin recalled seeing a delivery rider dressed similarly to Jill's attire cycling past the avenue at exactly the time window, but he had never been interviewed originally. Upon interview, joggers described seeing him riding upright and calm in blouse-like pale attire and navy riding trousers, still not clothing mark specific. Though speculative, the visual juxtaposition of the suspect's outfit and Jill's regular blouse and trousers image invited speculation about disguise or impersonation. In 2015, another twist emerged. An anonymous letter dropped at Yard Archives, postmarked Midlondon, included a fragment of fabric identified as matching Jill's blouse material. The note claimed the writer had taken a scrap as keepsake from the day of the tableau. Although peculiar, fabric analysts confirmed it was from the same off-white cloth pattern, not evidence of guilt, but a chilling keepsake of the crime. Public forums erupted. Collage artists remixed her blouse and trousers photos, overlaying chalk outlines of her body on carpeted stoop backgrounds. And armchair detectives debated possible gun calibers based on blouse buttonhole diameter. Familial backlash came afterward. Jill's friends asked why her clothing had become so sensationalized. The truth, they insisted, was she was more than the sum of her blouse and trousers. Yet, as of today, her outfit remains a fixture in almost every retelling of the case, assuring viewers to ask, what more might her clothes have revealed, if properly preserved and examined? And as Part 4 ends, the real questions remain. Could fresh DNA analysis on the blouse and trousers yet reveal a suspect? Could a witness, long silenced, recall seeing a mismatch between fabrics that day? Could a grainy doorbell camera yet emerge? Jill's blouse and navy trousers? A quiet choice. of attire had become the stage name for her unfolding mystery. Years have passed since the shocking murder of Jill Dando, yet the public memory remains haunted, not just by the crime itself, but by the strange and frustrating quiet that followed. Her name still echoes in headlines, documentaries, and debates, a symbol of innocence shattered on the doorstep of familiarity. She had worn a simple, light-colored blouse and navy trousers, the Diane outfit so modest and unremarkable that it became unforgettable in its stillness. It's preserved in every recreation, every reenactment, every attempt to conjure truth from uncertainty. That image became synonymous with the tragedy. A brilliant, beloved woman standing outside her Fulham home, keys in hand, turning the lock, then gone. As theories grew and receded, her case became more than a murder mystery. It transformed into a cautionary tale about the flaws within even the most high-profile investigations. Despite a national outcry, millions spent, in over 2 decades of analysis, the person responsible has never been definitively identified. Barry George, once convicted, was later cleared in an appeal trial that revealed the profound fragility of the evidence, and while the courts concluded his innocence, they didn't uncover the truth, leaving Jill's family, friends, and viewers with nothing but silence. The blouse and trousers she wore, modest, professional, typical of her style, became both emblem and vessel, caught in a loop of speculative reconstruction. In one BBC retrospective, a former producer confessed that even the wardrobe of actors cast to portray Jill had to be matched with eerie precision to her last outfit, not out of forensic relevance but to evoke immediate recognition. For many, that obsession with the external, how she looked, what she wore, only deepened the sense that the real Jill had been lost amid image and theory. She had been more than a presenter. She was a voice for the vulnerable, a campaigner for justice, someone who believed in facts and fairness. And yet, justice for her has remained elusive. Cold case teams over the years revisited the evidence, focusing again and again on timing, location, ballistics, but always there remained inconsistencies. No CCTV, no clear suspect, no motive that fit cleanly. Her keys were found in her hand, the mail untouched on the floor inside, her blouse lightly folded at the cuffs, as though she had just adjusted them before stepping out. No defensive wounds. A single gunshot, expert, deliberate. Many believe it had the signs of a professional hit. But who would want Jill Dando dead? She had no known enemies, no risky lifestyle, no scandal looming. Some speculated on her work with BBC Crime Watch, suggesting retaliation for her role in bringing criminals to justice. Others whispered of political motives, of international connections, of revenge killings tied to conflicts abroad. One theory suggested her role in reporting on the Balkan Wars may have drawn dark attention. She had filmed humanitarian stories not long before her death, but none of those theories bore fruit. As the years stretched on, Jill's house was sold, her street modernized, yet tributes continued to appear at the front steps on anniversaries. A blue plaque was added to commemorate her contributions to journalism, while her signature blouse and trouser style became a quiet feature in memorial displays. Her former colleagues at the BBC established the Jill Dando Institute of Crime Science at University College London, dedicated to improving the very systems that had failed her. Ironically, the investigation into her death would become a case study in how things go wrong, tunnel vision, premature assumptions, mismanagement of evidence. Even the forensics, the fibers on her blouse, the partial prints, the footprints, yielded only ambiguity. Over time, analysts realized some fibers had degraded from overhandling, crucial patterns had been missed or misinterpreted, and always, the consistent depiction of Jill in her final outfit, light blouse, navy trousers, served as the visual signature of the unsolved. In interviews, friends spoke of how hard it was to watch the media replay that same footage, those same stills, again and again. She became a symbol, one colleague said, but she was also our friend. Some suggested the case became too big to solve the weight of public scrutiny, overwhelming police strategy. Others believed the answer lies buried in early leads not taken seriously, a name in a notebook, a call not traced. Still, the case is not officially closed. From time to time, authorities reissue appeals. In 2019, the 20th anniversary of her death brought renewed attention. Podcasts, YouTube channels, and Netflix specials revisited the evidence, reigniting public interest. New witnesses came forward, though none with information substantial enough to reopen the case. Jill's partner at the time, Alan Farthing, who went on to become a royal gynecologist, has rarely spoken publicly about the loss. But he described it once as a hole that time cannot fill. In her hometown, residents still remember her kindness, her generosity, her smile. They remember her not as the woman in the blouse and trousers, but as Jill, who made everyone feel seen. Today, her legacy lives on in the students studying at the DANDO Institute, in the episodes of Crime Watch archived in BBC history, in the voiceovers of safety campaigns that still feature her narration. Her death remains a wound in the heart of British justice, and as long as it goes unsolved, her story remains a quiet warning that even the most visible, the most beloved, can disappear into a void of unanswered questions. Perhaps someone somewhere still holds the missing piece, the clue, the name, the detail that could unravel the mystery. Until then, Jill's final day, in her soft blouse and dark navy trousers, stands frozen in time, a door left ajar, a life interrupted,